is in Pisces, and that's the main important thing. Technically, we are retrograding now, so that's going to go on for a little bit. But anyway, you're going to notice a lot of stuff about space. Probably more so later in 2023 and 2024 and 5, but there's going to be a lot of stuff, starting around, I would say September, October, November, December. There's going to be a lot more stuff about space. Already they've kind of primed us a little bit with the weather balloon story that, we had a couple months ago. And for anyone who doesn't know, supposedly satellites are actually just weather balloons. So people have looked up with cameras, for example, at satellites, and they've seen they're just balloons. And another interesting topic is on the flat Earth. Now, I've been researching vaguely the flat Earth for about 7 years, or at least I've kind of known about it for a while now. And I do think that the round Earth is fake. The NASA model is fake. Now, of course, Earth has hills and valleys and ravines and all kinds of geographical features. So I'm not talking about a paper flat, but what we mean by flat is that there is no overarching curvature. And this kind of brings us into the ideas that there are potentially more continents beyond the ice wall. Now, supposedly I believe it was an Admiral Byrd or something, some admiral supposedly went beyond the ice wall and actually talked to people beyond the south region, and then he went back to this, to the central region here, and talked about how there were, villages and tribes and all, civilization beyond what we have now, which is very interesting. Now, of course, legally, you get basically shot down if you try to go to, Antarctica. You have to pay lots of money, and you can only go to certain areas. It's very suspicious. I mean, what are they hiding? Why are they hiding it at gunpoint? Of course, there are probably minerals and all kinds of interesting things there, but even Antarctica, there's probably an interesting story there. There's probably interesting things. Who knows, really? Even the North Pole. If you really, you really look at the North Pole, when the Earth was different and the sun's strength was different and all this kind of stuff, the North Pole supposedly was a continent and a good land and all this stuff. But going on, really a big one on the flat Earth is the firmament idea, and it took me a while because when people say firmament, it's like a dome in the sky from the Bible. I thought, well, that's just fantasy. That's just bullshit. That's when you listen to like a lunatic religious person. I thought that firmament's just nonsense. But if you actually look at amateur rockets, what happens is that they hit something in the sky, really high up in the sky. They hit some kind of wall, and I imagine it's either electromagnetic, because when something skids across it, it has this weird electromagnetic effect. If you look up just amateur rockets hitting the firmament or hitting the dome or the wall or whatever, you might have to do it on BitChute because it censored internet, or you'll need to know the right keywords. Otherwise, I've heard it could be solidified oxygen. If you looked at solidified oxygen, it's this white crystal, so a crystalline form of oxygen. People talk a lot about, well, it doesn't matter the shape of the Earth. Yes, it does. I do think the shape matters. People try to say this, and they also try to say things like, well, the Earth's both flat and it's both round. It's just a matter of perspective, which I don't think is true. I think that could be either a mental disorder of the person, because if you don't believe that something is, or you don't know that something is one thing, it's like a physical material object. It's like my cup. My cup doesn't just transform into a miniature giraffe and walk around and have a fun time when I'm not looking. That's not how reality works. But I think a lot of these people have friends which are probably, their normie NPC family and friends are probably, round earthers, and then they're maybe conspiracy theory spiritual friends are flat earthers. So they're getting spit roasted by God and the devil, so to speak, the material and the spiritual world. And they want to kind of, be friends with everyone. But the reality is, you need to pick a side. You need to stand up for what is right, what is real. Because that's what I want to know. I want to know what's real. I don't care about, I don't know, some allegiance to a side or allegiance to a this or that. I want to know what's real, what's right, what is correct, because it is important for us to know what the Earth really is. Firstly, because, some, crazy billionaires have this idea that we can just trash the planet and then just run off to another country, another planet. What if you can't? What if you fundamentally just can't go to another planet? And, they just keep destroying the Earth. What then? Well, geez, we got to clean the place up. We got to fix the place up. And you've also got the hyper spiritual and hyper religious types that think that they're going to die or ascend and they're going to go to another dimension or another world. What if you don't? What if, you simply just keep reincarnating in this world, this plane? What if this place is the only place that we can exist, until you get maybe to a super powerful state, but most people aren't at that level. And again, we have to fix up this world. We have to flush out all the evil governments and such, and take control of our own land again, take control of our reality. Similarly, if there are continents beyond the ice wall, there are people and places and such, we need to know that. That's important. It'd be good to get in contact with them, get in touch with them, and run an internet cable to there. Who knows what kinds of interesting things they've figured out, or interesting ideas they have, interesting societies and such. So I do think it matters. And of course, it matters if you are riding an aeroplane or you're using radio frequency waves. Aeroplane drivers, pilots, they act as if the Earth is flat. They are told to act that way. I believe the same is with radar. You have a flat plane with radar, and you don't have a curved kind of spherical 3D Earth model with radar. So yeah. So I do think it fundamentally matters. We have to get this idea out of our heads that either it doesn't matter or that it's both or that it's something else. No, reality is what it is. And I think we've been lied to, and it's a very bad thing. Of course, again, as I said, on a long-term scale, it's a big reason why we can't trash the place. We shouldn't trash the place out either way. It's basically, it's like, well, you shouldn't destroy your house because people are going to live in it in 100 years or something, or you'd think so. Who knows? Maybe build a new one. You know what I mean. So you got to do your own research, really. You got to do your own research into it. I'm sure by now most people think that the NASA moon landing's fake. You can see the studio. You can see there's recordings of people talking about how it's fake. People got killed over it. It's pretty crazy. The astronauts guilty as can be. I'm sure most people know that. Some people are probably still on the fence about the flat Earth. They'll think it's crazy. Who knows? Really, it's I remember thinking, I didn't even think about it. And then when people I followed were talking about it, I was like, this is going to be a joke, right? And then I looked into it, and you look into Eric DeBay's work, he's compiled quite a lot of good stuff and a lot of interesting things which you can research yourself. There's a lot of people with drones looking into it. Yeah, anyway, going back to space, I think there's going to be a lot of space stuff because there's a Saturn in Pisces. Already we've had all the fake alien invasions, and if the Earth is flat, then that kind of dispels aliens. What are aliens at that point? Because if they're not physical beings from out of the dome, out of Earth? Does that mean they're some kind of non-physical demons? Does that mean they come from underground, from, quote unquote hell? There's interesting ideas about them just being future humans, or humans that are, genetically, they genetically altered themselves, they're more scientifically advanced, etc., etc. And now they're coming back. But I don't know. I mean, all these alien sightings are kind of weird. It's like you have this weird animalistic creature that's going rah, 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 and there's someone going, oh my god, and like, what the fuck? I mean, there's some 60 IQ hairy gorilla monster know how to pilot a hyper advanced UFO. I mean, it's kind of weird, isn't it? I don't know, when you really start to pick apart and look at things from like a realistic lens, everything kind of falls off. Realistically though, it's probably because we're heading into potentially, hopefully not, into a World War III, or at least a bunch of military exercises. So they're probably trying to get people to accept, aliens, because there's going to be a lot of electromagnetic, next level aircraft that they're going to be showing off, and it's going to look very interesting and look like UFOs. And so if they make people think it's UFOs, the same thing happened during the Cold War, supposedly. People saw a bunch of UFOs. Well, probably electromagnetic aircraft, or just next level aircraft, whatever, something like that. If you're looking to electromagnetic levitation and lifters and the specific coils that produce and frequencies that produce lift, there's some interesting stuff there. We've also got a bunch of space games coming out, so there'll be a bunch of video games. It's basically like the last time Saturn went to Pisces, we had the Sega Saturn, the video game console, we had the PlayStation. So basically you had that next level of entering into 3D. A lot of those consoles, PlayStation, all that, they had some of the first really legit console 3D experiences. There were 3D, games and all that before on the PC. I think there was even some on the like the SNES and all that, the old consoles, but it wasn't quite as, as advanced as it became. There wasn't a bunch of them. So, I'm looking forward to that new Bethesda space game. Was it Star Space something? I don't know, whatever. I see a bunch of people like ripping it to shreds and just hating on it and all this stuff, and I just think it's pathetic. I mean, do you even like fun? That's how people are going to be, Either way, I think Bethesda games are usually pretty fun, Oblivion and Fallout and all that, so it should be good. I guess it's just, learn to see the psyop for what it is. Learn to see that the aliens is probably not what you think they are. Maybe they're not real. Maybe they're real, but in a different form. Maybe they're more normal, more kind of realistic than what you think. I don't know. Life is always more realistic than what you want to think it is. That's a hard, true, that's a cold reality of life. And it's not always a bad thing, but Pisces is kind of mental disorders, craziness, is weird things, and just realize that it's probably mostly a dream. That's a fantasy. And there's going to be a lot of shows about aliens, a lot of games about aliens, a lot of bullshit about aliens. But realistically, what is, And if you look into the flat Earth, if you're kind of on the fence, just look into it. Just give it a good, thorough check. Look at that amateur rockets hitting the firmament. Look at, recordings of people looking really far off into the horizon, the distance, and seeing that it doesn't link up to the mathematics they give us. And, wow, it doesn't really feel like we're going, 666 miles a second or something. I don't know what it is. Anyway, whatever. Have a good day, and of course, feel free to check the links in the description for social and commercial things. Goodbye.